Welcome back, friends. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add basic print functionality to your page. So place your cursor where mine is. It's, as you can see here, before the script block. So after the closing div, the one that we made in last lesson for the text area, but then within the form. We'll put your cursor there, and we're going to add, this time to show you a new control, I'm going to add a menu. So to do that, I'm going to type ASP and then menu. And then going to give it some ID, for example, like print menu or whatever you want to call it. Print menu. Run at server as usual. And to make sure that it's consistent in terms of the font family, I'm going to type here for the style equals, and then I will say, of course, font family, and then Arial. Remember that over here for the style sheet, we had the font family as Arial like this, you see? I don't want to apply all of the styling information to this object right here. It's not necessary. It's not something that will be dragging around the page. It's just a menu fixed in one position. That's it. Just like the drop down from my previous lesson. So terminate that. So this is the menu basic structure of it. It's an ASP object, as you can see. And now we're going to add some items. So to do that, type items. And within those tags, this is where you specify the actual items. So the first one will say this. I'm going to say ASP menu item, like that. Then you can give it some text, for example, so it says here print. And within those, we can nest additional menu items. But before I want to do anything else, take a look. I'm going to launch this for a second. We want to take a look at the result of what we have already. All right, so look over here on the left side. You see you have a little thing that says print. Okay, under where we have Azure and Bisq, we now have a little thing that says print. So that's the first stage. Right there. So now we need to add items that will expand when we click on this or hover our mouse over it. So let me close this. And this is why we need to now nest new items. So remember, this visible text that says print, that's what's showing on the page. And you can now nest sub-items under it. Take a look. I'm going to say ASP and then menu item again. And this I'm going to type, for example, text. And the first ability to print will be the summary grid. So I will say the following. Text equals. And then I will say here, print. Let's do it this way. Summary grid. And then let's add one more. So I'm going to say next here, ASP colon, menu item text equals. And after the summary grid, I'm going to say sales records, like that. The individual ones. And close that also. So now you've got that. Let's take a look at how this actually looks in action. All right, so hit Google Chrome, give it a launch. All right, so take a look. You see, when you hover your mouse over it now, it expands to additional options, one for summary grid and one for sales records. Now, right-click and go to inspect for a second. Expand the body, and then expand this one right here. And this is a lot of code obviously operating behind the scene by now. A lot of it is our own. A lot of it, however, is also auto-generated. You don't have to worry about it. But there's something that you do have to understand when you scroll through this. So the next step is more clear. All right, you see over here where it says div ID print menu right here. Style, font family, Arial, float left. That means basically keep to the left side of the page. And now take a look under it. You've got something called a UL. That's basically an unordered list. Expand that. And under that, you have the individual list items. One is called LI. That means a list item. Expand that. And under that, finally, look through this very carefully. At a point, has to say some text, like, for example, print, okay? So let me just show that, make sure you got it. All right, it's nested in a kind of weird way, but it is everything the way it's supposed to be, so take a look. Over here, under this LI, under this list item, you see over here it says print menu, And then, if you look carefully, it says summary grid. I hope you're seeing that. Let me enlarge that view here. And you need to understand this so that when we write the jQuery, that part of it will be clear. Take a look. You see here it says li, and then it says a, and then under that at some point, as you can see, it says summary grid. And for the next one, it says again li, then it says a, and at some point that should say sales records. So we need to understand that this is how the menu has been rendered behind the scenes here in the browser, because now we can make use of that with jQuery. We can say that, okay, well, since this here is a list item and it contains an A item in it, right here, you see that, that's an A. I should be able to select it using jQuery. So when people click on summary grid in the menu, I can print the summary grid. Same thing over here where it says li and then A class level 2 selected dynamic. Again, a lot of this is not our code, but it's been added. What matters is that we understand that the menu has been converted basically, as you can see, into list items, and the list items store individual entries. You can click on them and then take actions. And because it says li followed by a for this one, likewise up top it says li and then followed by a, we can use that as our jQuery selector to get to those items. So take a look at what I mean. I'm going to shut this down. So you got to go to the bottom through the jQuery now, okay? And we're going to add a new block. So I'm going to say select this, and I'm going to select as follows. I'm going to put double quotes, and I will say li and then a. That means list item and then the child basically. And now take a look. I can say dot click. So when we click, in other words, on something that pops up in the page under the main menu, we'll take an action, okay, which will be to print. But as you saw just now in HTML, under the surface, so to speak, the menu that begins here ends up looking a little bit different. So to make jQuery work, we had to go with li, list item, and then basically grab a, which is like a child under it, okay? All right, I do have a class on jQuery separate from this one where I talk about these things in a lot more detail. So, and for our purposes though, we're going to click and respond to the click as follows. Function as usual, opening, closing curly braces, and then break this up over multiple lines. All right, and now we need to write up the code. And again, this code is just something that has to be learned. It's very specific. So this is, remember, going to run when someone clicks on print and then one of those additional items opens and you click on that. I'm going to leave it at that explanation. It's good enough for our purposes. And I will say if, and I'm going to make a decision here that takes this form. If $symbol this, what that means is the currently selected item. That's what the word this means. It means this currently selected item. If that text, okay, double equals, I'm going to compare it against this. So in other words, print sales records. And here you have to be very consistent. Take a look. It's very easy to forget, right, what you've written. So up here I wrote summary grid and then sales records. Okay, so I have to be careful. I have sales records up here, as you can see, for the text attribute. So down below, I have to change this so it says just sales records, like that. Okay? Remember, the text and the this simply refers to that sub-item. So when you expand the menu and you put your cursor over the one that says, for example, sales records, that is a sub-item. And this line right here in jQuery is helping us to pick it out and get the text value and then compare it against sales records. If that is true, if the person basically has clicked on that item, then we can take an action. So the action is this one. Take a look. I'm going to say var content, and I will say equals. And now we're going to print. Now to print, it's a specific kind of code that you just have to learn it. It's a learned skill. I will say document.get element by ID. You're going to get the element by ID. And the question is, what is the element that we are going to get? Well, the way to do this one, this is the sales records, is this. Go up here and find the div that contains the sales records, the grid view rather. So I have it right here. It's collapsed right here. See this? It says ID GV sales. Remember, if you expand it, obviously it's big and messy. So I collapse it. It looks neat. And I'm going to wrap this grid view here in a div. And you'll see eventually why I have to do that. So the printing looks good, not bad. So I'm saying a div, and then I'll say ID. And I'm going to give this thing some kind of ID. I'm going to say sales div. And make sure you close it. So take it from there. Make sure you put that after the grid view with the sales records. I mean the individual sales records. Right, not the summary just yet. Right, so make sure you've got the grid view with the individual sales records wrapped within this new div called sales div. And I've done that for a specific reason, you will see. All right, I'm going to pull this down. And now what I can type at the next stage between double quotes is the following. I'll say sales div and then dot inner HTML. You will see that this allows us to print that grid within the div, so it looks like a nice grid that you might print from Excel. It will look good. And one more thing that I haven't done, notice that if you want to, you can terminate these statements with semicolons, all of them. You see, like up here, all of these you can terminate with semicolons. I haven't really focused much on that because as you can see, it still works well without them. But if you wanted to, you could go to your code, stick in the semicolons. In C#, they are required, obviously. You get an error message in C# if you don't do that. Like that. So I put semicolons everywhere to terminate the statements. Okay, do not put a semicolon here, obviously, with the if though, because that's going to give you an error message. Doesn't work that way. All right, so now that we have this inner HTML, we can make use of it as follows. Take a look. Next stage is to get a print window. So I will say variable print window equal, and I'm going to say window.open. And this, when you look at it, it says URL. We don't have to worry about that. Target, we don't have to worry about it. String. And then it says features, question mark, and string. That we can use. So the portion that says features we can use. You can specify a list of features you want the window to possess. All right, so one more time, I'm going to go over this. Take a look. Right, the URL, the target, we don't have to worry about that one. Okay, so I'm just going to put that for those. See, just leave them blank, put double quotes, and that's it. You can leave them blank. Okay, like that. So leave the URL, the target blank, and then after that, however, for the features here, you can specify many different things. I'm just going to put in a couple. I'm going to say width equals 500 and the height equals 500. So the features are specified basically as a comma separated list of values and properties, right? So height is a property, value 500. There are many other ones besides width and height. You can look those up. You can do some search on the internet about window.open and check it out. All right, it's good enough for our purposes though. I just want a window that's 500 by 500. That's good enough. And at the next stage, what I want to do is actually print. So I'm going to say print window and then dot and then document and then dot write. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to write out the inner div contents as you saw there. So remember that document.getElement by ID sales div.innerHTML will get the grid for us. That's what that is saying in simple English. Save it to the contents variable and then write the contents variable to the print window. You see? And then lastly, take a look. You will type print window and then dot print. And lastly, just close everything. So type print window dot close. All right, so remember, this works because, as you've seen, the menus are converted into list items, and then they have little sub-items. So that's what this is saying with the jQuery. When you click on one of those, this means the currently selected object, and then get the text, and if that is equal to sales records, then read the contents basically of the sales div, and then make a window, a print window that's 500 by 500, write the contents, okay, the print window document, that is what that is saying, and then print. And lastly, close. So let's take a look at this in action. Let me just build it. If there are any small issues, obviously I will fix them. So hit Google Chrome here for a second. So first of all, let me just zoom out so I can see some of these other things. All right, a little more. Where's the little sticky? All right, let me zoom in here now. And what you want to make sure for this to work properly is that the way this is configured so far, expand show details, and then make sure that you actually have something showing here, okay? I'm going to go with 4 because I think that one has a lot of records. Yep. So I've got here somebody, right? Doesn't really matter what. And what I have is a grid right here with individual records. Let's take a look. I'm going to click on print and then go over to sales records and click it. And notice a little window pops up. That's good. Let her run a little bit. Okay, and let me zoom in here. And as you see, after not too much work, thankfully, as you can see, we have a nice grid to print pretty easily, you see? And on the left side, if you click change, you can decide what you want to print to. You can save it as a PDF. That's my printer, the Samsung M2020 series. I could print to my printer. I've tried it. It works perfectly. Down below, if you look carefully, because I'm using Chrome, it says print to Google Docs and other cloud destinations. You got to be signed in, though. And then you can save to Google Docs also, you see? It works perfectly. All right, but for my purposes, I've already confirmed that this prints. On the left side, if you look carefully, there also says print using system dialog. So Control plus Shift plus P. If you click that, it's going to bring up a standard print box for Windows. And that will work also, you see? It's beautiful. I'm just going to do it one time. For example, I'm going to select Adobe PDF, and I'm going to go on Preferences, and then just click Print. Okay, on my system, for some reason, if I don't disable Rely on System Fonts, I get errors. So I have Adobe PDF. I'm going to click Print. I'm going to see what happens here. All right, so first of all, I'm prompted to save. That's good. Untitled document. I'll just type in something, doesn't really matter. And then hit save. Give it a second here. Let's see what happens. All right, and as you see, it comes right up. So this is working, right? We have a pretty professional application with professional quality printing pretty fast. You see? Looks good. It does print, though, the grid exactly as you see it with the edit and the delete and so on. Additional configurations would have to be done. And now take a look here. I'm going to shut this down. And I'm going to just make one more copy. Maybe at this point you should pause the video and figure out how you can fix it so it prints when you hover your mouse over the second one that says summary grid, okay? Maybe pause your video and try it. But I'll continue. The logic, of course, is the same. You can just basically take this block, Control C and then Control V down below, and do it this way now. So if this text this time represents this summary grid, like that, then you will need to take the summary grid and wrap it in that div and give it a name. So I need to go and get the summary div. All right, where's that summary div? Where are you? I have to be careful now. As you can see, this can get... I've got the sales div over here. Let me go find a summary div. Put that. So I've got the details view. I need to collapse things. Okay, and then we got the other one here called GV summary. There you go. So I need to wrap that one. I will say the following. Div ID. All right, I'm going to call this here summary div. Close it. I'm wrapping it within a div. Pull it down as shown. Build this. And make sure it takes. Scroll down. Okay, so let's see. I want to make sure I'm on track here. So get the summary div, again, make a window, write the document of the print window, and then actually print, and then close. All right, so let's take a look here. It looks good to me. Let me relaunch the page one time. Let's observe the result. Let's see what happens here. All right, so I'm going to expand this. And then let me go to print and summary grid and check it out. It's showing the little print window, which is good. And let me enlarge it for a second. And you've got the little grid in the window also, you see? There you go. So it's working beautifully. Nice. And if you look very, very carefully behind this panel that is here, look carefully behind it in the corner. You see there's a hint of the box. So I hope you're seeing this is the print window, right? Behind it, if you look very carefully behind this main panel in the corner on the left side, upper left-hand side. Now, notice this is a nice grid. So what I'm going to do for a second is this. Up here, imagine we just do this. I'm going to take the sales div, and I'm just going to disable it for a second. So highlight it and then just comment it out. So I no longer have the sales div active, and I run the code. Take a look. Let's observe what happens here, whether this still looks good or not. Okay, so go to print and then go over to sales records. Let it come up. All right, first of all, that's not working very well, you see? So then try this. Imagine you don't want the sales div. You don't feel it's necessary. So then down below, where it says get element by ID for the sales records, imagine you just type it. You're going to try to select that instead and print it directly without the div wrapping it around. So hit Google Chrome. Okay, expand that. All right, go over to print sales records. Okay, that's coming up. That's good. The problem with this approach, as you can see, is that with the preview that it gives you, it doesn't have the nice grid anymore, right? It's just some text. And the grid has been removed, and this is all kind of messed up. And again, if you look very carefully behind this main panel, on the upper left-hand side, there's a hint of this text. And that is so because remember, over here we said print window.document.write the contents. And then you're printing from there, you see? And at the end of it, you close everything. So I'm just going to fix this quickly so that it's in the right state. So remember, this was called sales div. Let me go back top and reactivate that. And that'll be pretty much it for this lesson. Again, this is a huge amount of code by now, but you can get it from lesson resources. Let me just uncomment that, highlight that, uncomment it. And I'm going to pull this down and leave it on the screen. And you want to make sure everything is correctly aligned with the curly braces and the parentheses. Okay, and that is it. I'll see you in the next one.